The first episode of the final season of Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. aired just last week, and as a big fan of the show, I'm here to break it all down, so I hope you'll join me after the intro. Well, hello there. My name's Jeremy and welcome back to Freeform Disney, where I talk about all aspects of Disney, from the animated movies to the theme parks to Star Wars, Marvel, and Pixar, and the TV shows, and everything else in between. And that is why it's Freeform. And keep coming back every day for new daily content. If you're not subscribed yet, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We finally made it to the final season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And wow, I started watching the show between seasons 1 and 2 and have watched it consistently since then, with only an exception for season 6. And that was because I waited a little bit before seeing season 6, given how well season 5 had ended the show at the time. I was a little hesitant to watch season 6, I'll admit. Now, spoiler, I loved season 6. And now with that quick preamble out of the way, it's time to jump into season 7. I think it goes without saying that there are a bunch of spoilers ahead. That's kind of the name of the video today. So episode 1 is called The New Deal. Now right off the bat, that should pull up visions of FDR, good old Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And he does pop into the episode. But let's go ahead and talk about what's going on in this season in the first place. So our villains this season are the Chronicoms, who were introduced last season as a major potential enemy, and certainly became that during the finale episode. Now they want to go ahead and turn Earth into their new home planet. And they see S.H.I.E.L.D. as standing in their way, so they've got to erase S.H.I.E.L.D. from time. Good old evil villain plot for you right there. So that means let's get ready for time travel. We're back in time and it's 1931 and we're off in New York City. Now it's always a good question to understand how time is working within any show or movie that deals with time travel. And they went ahead and tell it those pretty quickly off the bat because he gives an explanation for how we're using it here. I was guessing some kind of elastic theory of time to go ahead and make it work. So the explanation we get is of time as a stream. So ripples won't affect the stream, but you throw enough sticks into it, and eventually you can create a dam and divert the course of the river. So in other words, small things, not a problem. Time will pretty much make up for it and fix it, it'll keep going. But you can change the course if you do something big enough. And the Chronicoms? They know which string to pull in order to change time. We pretty much got the gang back together here in Season 7, with one notable exception. Because Simmons is here, but as is kind of common to happen a fair number of times throughout this show, Fitz is somewhere else. Because we're keeping them apart, that way the Chronicoms can't figure out what they're up to, so we don't know where in time and space Fitz is, and we didn't actually see him at all this time. Unlike Season 6, where by the end of the episode we did actually get to see Fitz. This time, though, we're leaving that a little more shrouded in mystery. Maybe in this second episode we'll get to go ahead and see where the heck Fitz actually is. And hopefully it won't take too long in the season to get them back together. Now for everyone else, well, let's see, Zeke is with us, we've got Mac, we've got Quake, or should I say Daisy? Either way you want to go at it. We've also got Yo-Yo, and guess what? Yo-Yo now has some real-looking arms. And that was actually a minor little point within the episode. We didn't overplay, we just kind of looked at it and saw how it affected her to actually be able to touch, and also how much it meant to her when she was keeping those arms as who she was before. So I don't know if we'll keep checking in on that later, or if that was our one and only time to really look at it. But it was a nice moment. Coulson is alive again. We found a new way to bring him back in this time. Now that said, it's still not Coulson, so we're not really undoing the death he had back at, well, technically after Season 5 ended, the one we knew was coming at the end of Season 5. So this time it's LMD Coulson. And by the way, that's Life Model Decoy, in other words. So he's a robot. Although upgraded with Chronicom tech, so really advanced. And then we got to see him go through the entire 2 years-ish of history that he missed. Because this LMD Coulson is based off of a scan of the real Coulson's brain when he went into the frame warp way back in Season 4. Whew. Okay. Now that said, that's led to some interesting differences so far in Coulson, because Coulson never wanted to be brought back as a robot. So he's certainly not happy about this, but he's going to learn to work with it and reevaluate it once the current crisis is passed, as you'd expect. But hey, it's superhero Coulson now, as he said. He's got superpowers, just like Quake. And he seems to be a little less cautious, shall we say. A little more headstrong now that he's died and not worried about dying here because he's got this LMD body. Just as long as he watches out for the people around him a little and makes sure that he's aware they're not necessarily invulnerable. Yeah. Okay, and what about the others? Well, Simmons is here, and I'm unsure just how much time has passed for Simmons. It clearly has been some period of time. We can see the effect on her, but I don't know, maybe a year, maybe a few months, maybe more. I don't know. Hard to say. I'm sure we'll find out more about that as we get through in the season here, bit by bit. But so far, she's been really cagey about exactly how much time has passed. Or what has happened during that time, really. And that leaves one more character that I haven't mentioned, which is May, who died at the end of the last season. But we're in a sci-fi right now. So, as you might expect, death is not the end here. We've got nice advanced technology, so we're bringing her back from the dead. Nice. And at the end in the button, we see that she is back. And I'm sure that'll play into the next one, whether she runs out into old New York in 1931 without being aware of what the heck's going on, or whether they get to her first. We'll find that one out shortly. Okay, so what about the plot of this episode? Well, it's 1931, so it's Prohibition era, which means we get to make some great jokes at Zeke's expense about the fact that alcohol is actually illegal. And really, we're talking a little about the origin of S.H.I.E.L.D. as well. But to go ahead and stop S.H.I.E.L.D. from being created, we have face-stealing Chronicoms. They have this nasty little weapon that steals somebody's face and kills them in a really painful-looking way. And so they can look like whoever the heck they like. In this case, police officers. But don't worry, our good guys can impersonate police officers too, and pretend to be Canadian Mounties with really shitty badges. In a very Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.y kind of sense of humor right there. Now that said, that's about the only way they get away with the fact they have a black man and a woman amongst the people who are their officers for the Canadian Mounties. Which also, by the way, makes a bit of a comment on how women and minorities were treated back in 1931. We don't get deeply into it, but you certainly see it. Now that said, don't go pissing Daisy off. As we're busy trying to track down our bad guys and stop them from their plan here in this episode, we end up running into Gemini. In other words, Ernest Koenig, who's good old Patton Oswalt back, but you might remember him from way back earlier in the show, where he was playing Eric, Billy, Sam, and Thurston Koenig, the quadtuplets. Well, anyway, in this one, he's their good old ancestor, Ernest Koenig, who's busy keeping the peace and running a speakeasy that ends up becoming a safe house later, and is kind of important within the timeline. So because he's supplying the alcohol and paying off the police regarding a party going on for good old FDR, we of course assume right off the bat, of course FDR must be the target, because FDR created the SSR, which ended up giving rise to S.H.I.E.L.D., so if FDR is gone, well, we assume that must affect the timeline enough that that would do the job. Of course, that was just a red herring, and a great chance to see Coulson go ahead and geek out about meeting FDR, but that's another matter. Coulson, whether he's an LMD or not, certainly is only too in love with being back in time, as you would imagine he would be. So what were the Chronicoms really after? Well, actually, they were after Freddie Malik. Now, Freddie Malik, you might recognize that last name. Freddie Malik was the father of Gideon Malik, who we most certainly saw a decent bit of back earlier in seasons of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So Freddie Malik, one of the founders of Hydra here, and one of the main instigators of really getting Hydra within S.H.I.E.L.D. here inside the U.S. Therefore, take him out. You take out some of that Hydra and, well, we stop S.H.I.E.L.D. from being formed, or stop it from existing now anyway. So what does that mean? It means our Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. have to go ahead and make it so Hydra actually comes into existence. The irony right there. Love it. And it's really full circle in a way. I mean, think back in season 1 and the ending of S.H.I.E.L.D. as we knew it at the time, which is because of Hydra and what happened. But now we're going to go ahead and have to make sure Hydra exists in order to save S.H.I.E.L.D. Nice. And of course, by the end, we do go ahead and save him. And also Viola, who was there with him, so we'll see more of her too. Okay, so that's your basic overview of the episode. Now, it was a great episode. It was tons of fun. We're back. It's great to have Coulson back in a way that's really much more Coulson-like as opposed to Sarge. I mean, Sarge was fun in his own right, don't get me wrong. But this really feels like we got our good old Coulson back, who I can't help but having missed in season 6. And hey, we should have May back soon too, and that'll be nice. Now we just gotta get Fitz back at some point. So here are some of my questions. Are we going to keep jumping through time? Maybe we'll spend a couple episodes at one point in time, another couple at another point, another couple at another point. That would be cool. I could really like seeing something like that happen. And hey, maybe we would have the series finale be somewhere around, say, the creation of S.H.I.E.L.D. itself over in the 1950s. That would be really kind of fitting, I think, and we get to see things come full circle. And as a bonus point, we'd get to see Peggy Carter pop in, probably Howard Stark maybe. And hey, I know we've always had these problems between Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. being connected to the bigger universe and bringing people in the way it originally was promised. Way back in season 1, it felt like we would get more of that connection, especially with the arcs we had in there and how we had Fury pop in the end of the season. Who knows, maybe we could actually have Fury pop in here in season 7 as we get near the end. That would be cool, just to have something like that happen again. Bring some of that connection back to the bigger universe. Hey, if there's a time for it to happen, the final season would be the time. Here's hoping. And yes, I suppose saying time like that is a pun, now isn't it? Now would be the time. Well, anyway, tonight we'll get the second episode of Season 7, and I'll be back tomorrow to go ahead and talk about it. And as you can probably take from this, I can't wait to see where the season is going to take us. And so, what about you? What do you think of the season so far? Did they fool you with the FDR fake out? They got me. What about you? Let me know down below in the comments. And thanks for watching. If you liked the video, please give it a like, share it with anyone else who you think will too, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see you back here tomorrow for another new episode of Freeform Disney. Have a magical day, and may the Force be with you always.